So Jay asked me a good question on the break that I just wanted to clarify. So that version of DISC is Everything DISC Workplace. And now they have this thing called adaptive testing, which instead of 28 questions, it's now 79, and it's more precise. Yeah, but it's fast. I'm telling you, I can take it in 15 minutes at the most, usually 10, and I've never had any pushback, but it makes it much more precise. So he was asking me what the shading was. So you saw around the outside of the circle there are different priorities. Most people have 3, but I picked some that had extra just because that would make it a little bit more inclusive, I thought, for a group where I didn't know what people's styles were. So that's what that's about, okay? Yeah, and the other thing that I want to do, if you would like, is I have cards here that I'm happy to share with you, and if you'd like to put your card in, I'm going to do 2 drawings and give away books. Woohoo! I have a book that I wrote 1,000,000 years ago with other Master Certified Coaches for the ICF people, and then I have a work of leaders. Thank you. I'll pass it around. Alms for the poor. No. How about here? I'll give it to someone. Would you pass it around?
Yes.
Tracy, take charge. My high D person, I love it. So I'll pull from that, and then, feel free to link in with me. It's Laura A. Davis, and my Facebook page is Laura A. Davis and Associates, Inc., and then you have my Twitter handle. And be sure to, if you want to look at my website, it's Laura A. Davis. Otherwise, Laura Davis is a real estate agent in Texas. She got it first, and I often get people say, I want to get off your list, and then I say, well, sorry to see you go, and then they email me back, oh, I didn't know it was you. I thought it was, I saw real estate, and I actually do have real estate to sell, but that's another story.
Email list. An email went out probably about a week ago with all of Laura's different ways to access her, so that's another way you can reference that email.
Perfect. Okay, good. So I want to share with you another model that I think is really important, and it relates to your question, and I'm sorry, I can't see. What was your name with the, yes, Michael. Michael's question about, self-awareness really, and it speaks to willingness around self-awareness. And then we're going to get into social awareness and self-management sort of together, and then relationship management, okay? And then we'll get specifically to how we're going to talk about facilitation in emotional intelligence, okay? So if you think about it, we have, again, our trusty beliefs and thinking and feeling patterns of behavior and attitudes, and really beliefs are the heart of this, okay? And, I would postulate that most people get up in the morning, and when they go to work or they go to do whatever they are going to do, they either have a mindset or an attitude of, I create my own day, and I'm at choice here, and I can do something about how things fall out to me or happen to me. Or other people are a little bit more other-directed and might say, I have to go to work, and I hope nothing bad happens today. Eeyore, yes, or a little bit at a victim stance, right? So given that, the other-directed person tends to see authority out there, right? And I'm looking at authority. But sometimes it can even be inner authority, sort of the self-bullying that we do sometimes. I shouldn't do this, I should do that. The woulda, shoulda, couldas sort of drive us too. But autonomy is really what we're striving for in organizations, right? And auto actually means self, and nomos, I guess you would say, in Greek is a law unto. So autonomous actually means a law unto myself, which I thought was really fascinating. I love etiology. Sometimes it really tells you a lot about meaning and so forth. So, the other directed person is saying, I have to do this, I have to do that. And the autonomous person is saying, I choose to, right? And really, if you think about it, if you tell an employee, for example, let's say you are a manager and you have 2 people working for you, and you ask them to do something a little bit outside their job description, the other directed person might have one response, which will go through here, and the self-directed person is going to have a different kind of response, right? So the responses that the person that is more other-directed might have is, yeah, I'll do it. I'll comply. Or I'm going to, what? Rebel, right? And you see that in the workplace all the time, or at home, for that matter, right? Or with friends even, sometimes. So if they comply, many times they resent what they've been asked to do. You hear any griping in the workplace, right? Or you can also resist. And resistance can take a lot of forms. What are some of the forms of resistance that you see in the workplace? Procrastination, questioning, calling sick. Yeah, a mental health day, we used to call those, right? Or in Australia, they call them a sickie. Isn't that funny? A sickie. A coach, actually comes from my coach, Keith Ayres, who's in Sydney. And this is the work of a man named Ralph Colby, as was the previous model. So that's why I'm hesitant to share all these slides, too, because some of this is their IP and my IP and that kind of stuff. But we'll work that out and make sure you get what you need. So anyway, the resistance can take many forms. But often, what's underneath that is I'm not responsible. And in fact, years ago, I used to do some quality work. Remember when TQM was really, the forefront? And I did some work with GM, and it was interesting. We asked the question, how do people resist and how do they rebel? And they said, well, they steal from us. I'm like, what? They steal cars? You can't, that's pretty hard to do. Can't put it in your briefcase and walk away with it. Oh, no, they take parts. And yeah, and when asked, why do you take parts? They say, well, you owe me. Because the way you treat me, lack of buy-in, all those sorts of things. So you certainly want self-directed people in the workplace, right? You don't want these victims, and you don't want people who get revenge. And really stealing or anything like that is revenge. Or, taking a job elsewhere, that kind of thing. But the most common form of resistance is probably just doing the bare minimum, right? Retiring, getting by, retiring in peace. RIP, we used to say, I've retired in place, kind of thing, yeah. So, you've not heard that before, yeah. You got a lot of those in certain organizations, right? So if I choose to, then I can agree or disagree, right? I do it. If I disagree, I accept the consequences. People were asking me last week how I got started in my own business and so forth, and actually I quit a boss like many of us do, right? And I decided that it wasn't worth it. Sorry, speak up? Thank you for telling me. I quit a boss, and I accepted the consequences rather than do something I didn't feel was the right thing to do. And that, at least, was being self-directed. That was just an example of that, right? So accepting the consequences, and then that attitude is really, I'm responsible, right? And I went home and went, oh my goodness, what have I done? That's another story. But 20 years later, here I am, still eating. So really, accountability and freedom is what we're driving for. And I am so passionate about this because we're always going to have organizations. We're always going to have corporations. We need them. And so often people say, well, I'm going to leave. And that's how I was, in my 30s. Like, the heck with this. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Well, who do I serve, though? Large corporations and large government organizations and healthcare and education and all those sorts of things. And really, what I'm passionate about is creating environments where people are engaged and where there is this autonomy. And that comes from a certain command of understanding emotional intelligence, but, a different kind of leadership behavior that really drives that kind of culture.